Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first Wisdom of Women of 2023. Pretty awesome. We are letting everyone in right now. We'll give everyone a few moments to get on so they can hear and connect. We have April Sage with us, who will begin in just a moment. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Okay. Great. My name is Katie Stein. I am the executive assistant to Allie Chris Kemp, who is the CEO and president and owner of Financial Insights Wealth Management. It is a pleasure to have all of you with us today for a very important topic. We're going to start off by introducing April Sage. She is the owner of Senior Housing Advisory Services. She's founded the company after struggling to find the best care solutions for both of her grandmothers. Her passion for helping people has made this her mission, bringing care solutions to families. April has always been heavily involved with her community. She has served as a board member with the Yelm Chamber and Pierce County Chamber of Commerce. She has also served on the YWCA of Olympia Board Fund for Women's and Girls and the Washington Center for Women in Business Advisory Committee. Currently, she serves on the board of the YWCA of Pierce County and is a board member for Every Monday Matters, a national organization that helps people understand how much they matter to themselves, their community, and the world. Pretty awesome, April. April is also the mother to 4 children and 2 stepchildren. She is actively involved in all of their lives. In her limited spare time, she enjoys going to watch live music, sporting events, spending time outdoors, and taking walks with her dog, Cajun. That's a very sweet name. Welcome, April. I want to let all of you know that we are recording. If you choose not to have your face recorded, that is okay. Stop the video part and you can hide yourself. We will have an opportunity for Q&A at the end, where you can either raise your hand if you're showing yourself, so thank you, and April will call on you, or you can go to the bottom of your screen and hover down below. It'll say chat. If you click on that, looks like we already have a couple questions. I can't hear you. Oh, got it. Okay, Teresa Penman can now hear me. Thank you. And so it is working. So you can feel free to write a message below, and I will relay that to April, and then she will answer that. So away we go, April. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, ladies. So I want to start by telling you that my screen occasionally seems to do this glitchy thing where I turn green. I can still hear you. I'll still be able to communicate with you, but I might look really funny. So bear with me. So thank you so much, Katie, for that introduction, very thorough introduction. And it is wonderful to meet you all virtually here. I admit I don't do a lot of public speaking, and Zoom gives me, I'm so nervous because I can see myself talking. So, but I'm very excited to talk to all of you. So I just want to start by saying that, repeating actually what Katie said, you know, this mission was founded on my strong feelings after the experience we had assisting my grandparents as they aged and their health changed and their needs changed. And to back it up, though, I was raised in a single parent household by my mom, and my grandparents were an integral part of my life and my growing up, and I was an endearing fan of theirs. And so, of course, any way I could support and celebrate them as our life continued was extremely important to me. I was a banker for over 20 years. That's where a lot of my relationships came from, and the skill set I have in running my business. I was blessed to meet so many different people from so many different walks of life, and really understand what a budget means, really understand what clients needs mean in the process of finding what the right solution is for people. It's very customized, and it means a lot to me. So I very much enjoyed my banking career, and unbeknownst to me, my life was going to take another turn. So I was at this Alzheimer's breakfast, and I like to tell this story because you can only imagine. I'm sure you've been at a fundraising breakfast or lunch where everybody's at a table, and you know some of them and you don't know some of them. And you are learning all about what the event is. And then at the end, there's this beautiful ask, and someone tells a very personal, vulnerable story. And, so that happened. And I had just lost my grandmother from her journey through dementia and the multiple facilities that she had to find herself in. And the many times that people didn't have answers to these questions in front of us. And the many times we had to pivot after we thought we made a good decision, and the changes that followed. But I was emotionally spiraling in this moment. I wrote a check I couldn't afford. And I hugged the person next to me in tears, and I had no idea who they were. So eventually, I found out that she wanted to start a business and work in advocating for seniors and placing them in homes as they needed to transition. I had never heard of such a thing. I had just gone through all of this pain. And I'll tell you, the moment that I met her, why doesn't everyone know about this person, So she asked me to help her as a banker. Fast forward through that process, she set up her own business. 4.5 years later, she called me and said, hey, let's go to lunch. I'm retiring. Tell me how I need to kind of back out of my business. And I said, oh my gosh, well, I just have to tell you that if I could reinvent myself and do anything on the planet, I would want to be you. I would want to do what you do. I was in awe by the support and the broad reach she had in the most emotional times. And she said, well, I can't sell you my business, but I can certainly tell you how to do it. Why don't you join me and shadow me and see if it works for you? I did, and I quit my job. I quit my job in banking with enough savings to give me a nice ramp of 6 months in preparation to actually launch my business and stand behind the promises that I make, which is to find the very best solution for a family member that is within your geography, in support of the diagnoses that exists, and will be there through end of life. And matched very well to customize what your family member needs and what your family needs. So I work with about 200 families a year on average at this point. And, there are all different scenarios, literally. Every single person has a very, very specific story that is unlike others. You'd think you would see the same thing over and over and over, but you don't. All circumstances are different. Even the diseases, although similar and diagnoses are the same, the paths can be quite different. So it's important that that I am very thoughtful about not considering this diagnoses, let's just say it's Parkinson's, that this Parkinson's is going to go this journey. And so therefore this solution is going to work for them. What I have noticed and what I knew through my own personal journey was that, there are no plans. Most people don't want to talk about these plans. It is very hush hush. It's almost offensive if you consider talking about it, you feel like you're going to offend someone. So you just, heaven forbid we talk about it, right? And you want to believe that everybody has the solution in mind because you kind of don't even want to think about it. You just pray that it's all, already lined out, that somehow mom and dad, grandma and grandpa aunt and uncle, they have had a tough discussion. They know exactly what they're going to do with the next steps if heaven forbid, something doesn't go quite right in their health journey. And so we all kind of bank on that. And I'm here to tell you that that's not a very good way to go. That's not a good way to go. Planning is very important. Having open discussion about what this, I'm just going to say last chapter. Really, it is the last chapter. The golden years that a lot of people say aren't golden, but either way, however you want to define it, it's that chapter in which we are aging into a place that we are really aging into an unknown. And fair enough, because there's far too many things that can happen in that space. So, families, again, they don't plan, they aren't talking about it. And usually I'm meeting a lot of people bedside because of this. And, a social worker has just come in, picture it with you, if you'd like. A social worker has just come in, you're sitting with your loved one, and they say, okay, so here's the diagnoses, here's the issue. The fall was worse than we thought. The hip is, what it is, or you name the body part that's been affected, or the part of the body that's been affected. And unfortunately, you can't go home without full care. You're going to need 12 to 24 hours of care. How are you going to take care of that within your family unit? So, therein lies the problem, therein lies the issue. These things that we haven't thought of, that we have never wanted to talk about. A lot of people have a misconception that their medical insurance will take care of that cost. If they're medically unable to take care of themselves in their home, I apologize for the green screen, then somehow or another, United Healthcare is going to get some in-home care over to them. That does not happen. Okay, there are policies that will take care of some of those in-home care needs. It is difficult for me to tell you in very specific terms what that criteria is, but I'll just say that there are options that can come out and help you, but not at the significant 12 to 24 hours covered by, your insurance. Sometimes military benefits will give you a bit of long-term or home care. You also might use your long-term care insurance policy that can serve as a support system for a period of time, depending on when you bought it and what you bought it for. Those types of things I help families navigate all the time. But just want to start by saying, if there is a bedside diagnosis that requires an extensive in-home care support system, a lot of people think it's through insurance, Medicare, home health insurance, and it is not. So it's very important that when I meet with families, I let them know right up front, we need to plan. We need to plan for the unforeseen. We need to plan for A, B, and C, depending on what that diagnosis is, depending on what the income is, and the resources and assets to assist you as you try to stay home, should you need to have care. I also tell the families, take note of what we're experiencing here today, because children, grandchildren, this is a big topic, and all of us are probably going to be faced with it in some space of our lives at some point, whether it's a friend or a neighbor, a sibling or another family member. Most of us will find ourselves in these conversations, wondering, does your loved one have a plan, and what does that plan look like? So I would like to talk about the next step, which is, okay, so you're sitting and you're having this plan and you're getting pushback. There's usually a reason for the pushback, and it's very natural. It comes very naturally to most of the generation I'm working with at this point. They really see that they would be moving on to their grandmother's nursing home. That is a huge fear. They automatically think of the experience they had in a nursing home, and it was typically at least 20 years ago that they had to visit someone or heaven forbid, place someone, and they don't want that lifestyle for themselves. So immediately they say, nope, we aren't going anywhere, we're staying here. I want to give you the assurance that the grandmother's nursing home is not that experience anymore. Even nursing homes that are the skilled nursing home kind, many of them have activities and different things. And I understand where they're coming from. I mean, it is a fair place of fear. But I want to make it clear that, most of the properties, the communities these days, they operate like a cruise ship on land. Lots of them, they honor independence. They want you to get out there and experience life. They don't want you trapped in your apartment. They want to get you shopping and to the movie theater and out to dinner and the like. So opera, symphony, you name it. There's a lot of cultural benefits to being a part of a long-term care community as well. But again, I just want to reinforce the cruise ship on land experience is a fair presentation, and just letting them know that life is a lot different now than it used to be in those care settings. So I focus, when I'm working with people, I focus on the budget, the geography, the diagnoses, and the personalization. Personalization is important because not every community fits all people. But I also want to go through the overall planning bullet points, like the layers of the type of residences that you can choose if you need to choose a long-term living solution outside of your home. And then I also want to touch on what it would be, how it would be if you did stay home or your loved one did stay home. Okay. So fair enough. Most people want to stay home. I'm all about staying home if you can. Most people are more comfortable that way. They've lived in their homes long enough. This is where they've raised their children. There's a lot of nostalgia and comfort in a home. So that being the case, should you find that you would like to stay home, something to keep in mind as you need in-home care, if you need in-home care, but as you need in-home care, just very important to note that it's roughly between $45 and $50 an hour for caregivers to come in and take care of various medical needs. Okay, so this is kind of a CNA level care provider, quite skilled to do, basic things for you, lift you from the chair, get you into the bathroom, standby shower assist, support you so you have a bath aid if you need one, medication management, those types of things. They can come in, set you up, provide you with some light house cleaning, maybe some meal prep, as well as some of them who drive can get you to your errands. So they can serve as, kind of an all-around kind of person. Again, also to set up for med management and or provide you the bath aid. Usually that person comes in for a minimum of 2 to 4 hours, depending on the company that you hire from. And again, like I said, it's $45 to $50. And so as you can imagine, if you are in the hospital and someone comes to your bedside and says, I'm sorry, but you're gonna need some heavy help at home, and you can't be alone 12 to 24 hours a day, you're gonna need to hire out support if you don't have the family to step in and do it for you. So if you did the math, that bill's quite expensive. So I just like to tell people that ahead of time, because a lot of folks plan to stay home, but they don't realize what it means to stay home. So, when the medical insurance doesn't kick in to cover the at-home aid, you obviously need the funds that are set aside to pay for that at-home aid, depending on the amount of time you need them for. So that's a good budgeting focus. Now, needs can drastically decrease, or needs can drastically increase over time. So when we're sitting down and having these discussions, I call them planning discussions, because I always start with the end in mind, but I do want to start where the client is most comfortable. So again, most people want to stay at home, so we talk about what it takes to stay at home. But I encourage them to look beyond home, because we're not in control of what happens, right? So should they find themselves needing more care that is not affordable with the budget that they have, or should they need more complex support that can't be had inside the home, because inside the home, the CNA might not be able to do some of the more complex care needs, then we look to a future in a continuing care community or an assisted living property. So if you were to choose to go to an assisted living property that starts at the independent level, there are no care checks in that space. If the loved one or you were to fall, there might be a pull cord or a pendant, but they're going to call 911 to get your care. And should you need care when you come back, you're going to have to hire that out through an independent agency typically. So they're wonderful properties. Like I said, cruise ship on land. They provide a plethora of activities throughout the day. They also provide transportation to doctor's appointments and excursions and the symphony and the like. But what I also like to point out is there's a wonderful camaraderie between in the familial aspect of living with or around peers. Okay. So you inevitably will find a friend or a couple of friends, or couples will find couples and friends to share their experiences with, just like you do in any other part of your life. And what I find especially lovely about that is when you have these friendships cultivated in this environment, when things shift and change, as they will, you will have like-minded people around you experiencing these experiences together with you. So should there be a difficult diagnosis, I have a feeling there's going to be people around you that can empathize and understand and go with you through that process. Should you find that you are there with your spouse and the spouse passes, there are going to be people around you that can empathize and understand what it's like to lose a spouse in a way that you living in your home surrounded by family it's not the same. Family will grieve with you and love you and grieve for the loss of your loved one with you, but it's going to be in a different way. And then eventually those people leave, and now you're in this house by yourself. Not the greatest environment to stay in long term. Grieving alone, it's definitely healthy to be around others where you can and have that camaraderie and that support system that the familial friendships that you've created can provide. So for that reason, I really do love the idea of going to a property at an independent level where you're still actually in pretty good health, because you have these relationships that form and go with you. So it isn't for everybody, but it is for a lot of people. So, and then as things shift, should your partner not be well, there are services that can come in and support your partner. So you aren't doing it alone, or you can move to assisted living. I want to back up one step though. Important to note that for independent living, I like to touch on the price points for all of these. So for independent living, your apartment's going to be roughly $4,000 to $6,000 a month. Now that typically covers all that I just said. Some offer meals, 2 to 3 meals a day. Some do not. It just depends on the package. Again, it'd be something that we would deep dive on should we talk about different properties. And then of course, that does not include any sort of care. So the apartment is a fully equipped apartment, typically in a community building. But some of the properties, the continuing care communities and assisted living communities, some of those properties offer what is called a cottage, and that's a duplex usually, that is just on the outside the perimeter of the larger building. So you can still live in a cottage atmosphere, nearly in a home on your own, but still be a part of the campus. So you're included in the activities and the experience, but then you have the ability to kind of feel like you're still out and very ultra independent in a home with a garage and things like that. There are properties like this that you buy into. So, you know, they might cost $130,000 to $250,000 to enter. And that is supposed to keep the rents, typically keep the rents level and give you other advantages. I think that those are lovely properties as well. It's not to say that that is not a good way to go. I just know that you can get very good care without putting down the down payment. So depending on what the age factor is and really how long we feel that you'll be living in that building or that community, we talk about that in your individualized budget discussion that gets, you know, a little deeper than just surface. So it's really important to me that the families are feeling confident that their loved one won't run out of money and have to move in the future. So the next level from independent is the assisted living, as I mentioned, and the assisted living is as such, you pay the rent, apartment rent, and then you pay for the care that provides that assistance. And the care can be as little as medicine management or a shower aid. It doesn't have to be complex. The care plan is always separate. Again, the care plan is always something you pay out of pocket. It's not covered by your medical insurance plan. It's considered housing or part of the housing. That care assistance can start at about $500 a month and go up to, now this is a broad spectrum of costs, right? All these different properties charge differently, but I'd like to tell you it's about $500 to $4,500. I do want to point out that at that very high level, and I've seen it higher, but at that very high level, that is what I would consider like end of life, high needs. You're no longer, the loved one is no longer getting out of bed. You know, they pretty much need every single activity of daily life done for them. So, and that is, again, on top of the rent. So as you can see, your rent and your monthly care cost, they can start at about $4,500 and then go all the way up to, you know, $12,000, depending. So at that level, I think that people assume that the word assisted means I've lost all my independence. I've lost the ability to make my own decisions or do things for myself. You know, I'm now told what to do and how to do it. That is not true. The truth is that assisted living is just assisting for the daily needs that you can't do on your own, that you might struggle or even hurt yourself by trying to do on your own, or your loved one do on their own. The assistance is only for the things you need done. Otherwise, again, staff and the community around you, they want you to be as independent as possible, because if you stop using it, you do lose it. So the more you can do on your own, the more you want to do on your own, it's celebrated. It is not they're not trying to make you diminish, you know, your activities or your experience. It's actually quite the opposite. Everyone wants the people who are living in these environments to experience life at its fullest. So they make sure that these properties make sure that people at every level can have access to things, you know, experiences and activities and exercise and things that like that. The symphony, you know, very important. I'm going to move on to memory care. So something I want to point out with memory care, oftentimes I meet families where there is a well spouse, someone who does not have cognitive decline, someone that's a bit healthier, coupled with someone who does have a diagnosis of cognitive decline. This couple can live together. They can be together for as long as it's safe for the person who has the diagnosis to do so. Dementia is, for me, in my opinion, it's the most challenging diagnosis there is, because it's often the most unpredictable. There are no two alike. You know, a diagnosis can turn a beautiful, sweet woman into someone who's angry, that can hurt herself and other people around her. You know, that change can come over time. It can happen, you know, from day to day. It can do the opposite as well. It can take a crotchety, mean person and make them the most endearing, sweet angel you've ever met. So,
My
so
mother-in-law.
I see that. What's that?
That's my mother-in-law.
Oh yeah. So I say that because there are other factors with dementia, and I won't go too deep in that, that can present themselves. But typically, as long as you are not unsafe with others or unsafe to yourself, and you're not trying to, the person is not trying to seek an exit to to cause them harm, lose them, then they can remain in a general population with their spouse, or even without their spouse, just someone guiding them on a regular basis, the staff does. They can live in general population assisted living for as long as possible, till it's clear that it's concerning. They might make a safety, something might be unsafe for them. So so oftentimes we try to keep couples together, and they live in assisted living, and they get a lot of help from the care providers there at the assisted living, and they don't end up in memory care for any point in time. But I like to encourage, if the loved ones are looking for a continuing care community, or a community that would provide that level of support, and there is a diagnosis that has to do with cognition, that we do find a property with memory care, just in case something changes and they require a memory care part of the building. So memory care can get quite expensive in a community. They're generally the most expensive, actually, at the end of life, and starting at about $7,000-8,000 a month to about 14,000 a month, depending on where you're looking. Obviously, every single one of these, the cost of living that I'm sharing with you does go up over time. Usually we see increases of 3 to 5% annually in the cost of living. So it's important when we're budgeting that we think about those increases. And also we think about the unforeseen that can change the care level drastically year over year as well. It's, it doesn't happen that often, but you could go from a very low level care at, $600 a month and be paying $3,000 a month just by one heart event, something tragic that can occur that can really wipe out the budget if you aren't thoughtful about that. So I take a lot of time with families to talk about what that looks like. And when I'm budgeting, I stress the budget throughout, just in case an event happens that we aren't expecting. Now, something I didn't cover, which was adult family homes. Adult family homes, or group homes, as some people call them, are family homes that are converted into communal living. There are up to 6 residents, and now Washington State is expanding that for homes that can handle it. They can apply and have up to 8, but that's neither here nor there. Those homes are converted into this communal living small facility, and they're drastically different in style. There are many of them. You might even have a couple on your block or in your community as you drive to and from your house each day. They're run by certified people. Some of them are CNA, all the way up to nursing level. I have a couple that I work with that are of a skilled, they are licensed as kind of a mini skilled home where they can provide services on a skilled nursing level, feeding tubes and the like. They can handle those. So obviously not all the homes are equal, but the price point and the customization and approach to care is very nice for individuals that maybe didn't plan so well, so they need someone to be more flexible with their the amount of money they have to spend privately, when they will accept Medicaid. I know a lot of people on this call might not be in that category, but I bet you that there are people that in your life that might not have planned well for their retirement future and really do need to lean on the services of Medicaid at some point as they age. So I want to be clear, there's a little more flexibility there, where the facilities, the properties, the communities, they all have waiting lists that are a couple years long for the most part, for folks that are on Medicaid, the ones that will take it. So not all communities will take Medicaid. But back to that adult family home experience, they're lovely homes. A lot of them have private bedrooms with, the master suite look, where there's a bathroom and a bedroom and it's your private space, where a couple can live in that master bedroom. The provider will provide home cooked meals, oftentimes very customizing of the meals, making sure that the folks that live there get what they want, what they like to eat, and it doesn't come out of the freezer all the time or out of a can. These are thoughtfully approached meal plans, all in accordance with diet and care plan focused. So those properties charge between $5,500 and $14,000. I know that sounds like a great big difference, but I'm giving you cost as though, I'm just giving you the full range. So 5,500 in one home may not be allowed in another home. They may not go as low as 5,500 a month. They may be minimum 8,000 a month. So I just want to be clear, there is a home for everyone. There is a solution for everyone, but we have to find the right budget. We have to find the right home in the right geography, and that can meet the needs, the medical needs of the person that is considering living there. That is a very important part. So we aren't changing homes or changing communities for our loved ones. It's detrimental to change. It's hard on a person to change, and changing over and over is not good for anybody. So I'm very careful not to have to do that.
April, we've got just a few minutes left, so we can
Okay.
leave enough time for Q&A. So you got about 4 more minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, I kind of, I was ready actually to open the floor. I feel like if I'm talking and talking and talking, I don't know what buttons I'm hitting, and I might have said something that is really much more important than just basic information. So I'd love to pause and receive any questions that are out there.
Wonderful information. So let's go ahead and start asking our guests. If you'd like to raise your hand, or you can go into the chat room. We're ready. Any questions with regards to anything that you might have thought of during this wonderful presentation? A lot of times people are quite overwhelmed with the information, because this was really good. I know that I learned a lot, but
It's
please,
a lot.
it is a lot.
Lori,
And I think
Lori
everyone's,
has
and we haven't lost anybody. Everyone's still on. So that says,
Oh,
that's
good.
good. That's good.
Good.
Yes.
Lori has a question. She has her hand raised.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi there.
Hi, Lori.
I missed the first 15 minutes of this. So I'm curious. I actually have a friend who's 67, single, has no family, has some memory issues, not Alzheimer's, and not dementia diagnosed. So I'm concerned about her continuing to live alone. So, and she also is wanting some socialization since she retired from work a couple of years ago. And I guess my question is, since I missed the beginning of this, our speaker here are you just South Sound, or what exactly do you do?
So I cover South of Seattle, all the way through to Thurston County. I've covered outside of that, but that's my basic territory. So where are you looking? Where's your friend?
Well, my friend currently lives around Northgate. I'm not so concerned about her moving. I pretty much, if I can find the right place that is like, look at this, this is wonderful. You have a place to walk your dog, and she's getting good meals. That's my biggest thing. So I'm kind of open to whatever. And I've been in touch with some agencies. They've reached out to me. But again, I've got to look and see what I think is going to be the best place, so that I can take her there and say, look at how great this place is. How do you feel about this, rather than taking her someplace and looking and me going, oh my gosh, this is not going to work, and her going, why are we even here?
So I'll explain how maybe how I do an intake process, and I want to also address some of your other thoughts. So when I sit down with a family, I will often meet with people that don't want to be met with. They don't want the conversation, that they don't want to talk about it. It's too much, it's too personal, or they just want to pretend it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I sit down with them and I say, this by no means does this mean you're going anywhere, but we have people who love you, who want to know what decision to make for you. And nobody wants to actually make the decision for you. They want you to make it yourself. So it would be very important if we could have a very open conversation about what is it that you must have, what has to be around you for the remainder of your life to make you feel happy and complete. What is it that in your space that you live in is a must have, you know, for whatever it is. I meet people who can't go anywhere without a piece of furniture. If that furniture does not work in that apartment, she's not moving there, you know? Or I have one today that if she didn't have a salon to do her nails and hair, she wants no part of it. So that told me no adult family home was going to work. We needed to find the right, you know, community. And so, that very detailed intake process will open the door to what your friend really desires. And it opens the door and makes it safe to say, should I have to make a change? Okay, I'm willing to look at this type of place. I'm willing to, as long as they'll take my dog, you know, if they can't take my dog, then I don't want to go anywhere, you know. And then also we talk about their budget. The budget is going to dictate a whole lot of things. So if she's 67, retired, but she didn't save all that well, you know, that narrows the search to places that will allow her to go to Medicaid. She has to come in with private money. Typically, the term is about 2 years minimum in that private money space before they'll accept Medicaid. There are a couple other stipulations, but I just want to keep it real simple.
Okay.
And I want to touch on something else. 67, living alone, socialization, that is going to keep her healthier longer. And that is part of our discussion. I will say, it's very important to me for you to understand, you know, that part of life, it actually keeps our minds healthy. It keeps us physically healthy, believe it or not. So it's a very important part of thinking of your future. So we think very big, and then we take her personal information and narrow it down. And then we look at multiple properties. I typically will tour with my families in at least 3 places. It gives you a really good idea of what's out there. If that's not quite it, then we keep going until we find what our gut says, this feels right.
Okay. Thank you.
Nice. Well, thank you for the question, Lori. That was great. Jake wanted to ask you, but I would like to keep that between the two of you, what your fees or costs are. What I'm going to do, if it's okay with April, is I'm going to share my screen as she's answering questions, because we've got more popping up, just so you know, in the messaging. But she will be able to answer those questions to you one-on-one after this presentation. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen and have her contact information here. You should be able to all see that. And then I am going to, we've got someone already wants to come in now. I'm also going to share with you, it won't let me go back to my chat box. It went away. Amanda had a great question. How many facilities, April, are there in Washington to choose from? And how do you, well, we got a lot about how you narrow down the list, but how many would you say there are?
Oh, heavens.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, what side of the mountains are we on? Is
okay.
it, you know, are you,
how about in the South Sound and we narrow it down?
Goodness sake. So, like in Pierce, you know what? Can I get back to you on the exact number? Because I can throw a dart at it.
Yeah, just a guesstimate. We just had someone that was interested in that. Amanda was asking about that.
So Puyallup, Tacoma, Olympia, like that.
Yep.
Tacoma, Olympia.
South Sound. Yep.
25.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That's
And I mean, all shapes and sizes, right?
Okay.
All shapes, all sizes, not all take Medicaid, some are private pay only. The majority, I mean, Tacoma, the big ones you're thinking about in Tacoma, since a lot of us are Tacoma folks, you know, most of them are private pay. you know, the ones you hear about that you might see on TV, most of them are private pay.
Okay, thank you. A question from Nancy Smith. My parents are considering a buy into facility in the $200,000 range. I don't understand how the buy-in works. Can you help explain what they are actually buying as they still have the monthly charges? Good question. Wow.
So I touched on that earlier because it comes up, you know, the real fancy ones, and not all of them are real fancy, to be funny, it's funny part, because I used to think it was only the extremely fancy ones. But you know, the pretty fancy ones are going to have buy-ins, but some of them don't. Some of those properties don't buy in on all of the apartments. Really, it's an investment strategy for them. The money pays down the balance on their loan and allows them to take advantage of avoiding, pardon me, that interest. And you know, they actually will, a lot of them prorate it for a very short amount of time. And when I say short, I mean, you know, if you think of $200,000, which to me is a lot of money, you get 5 years, and at the end of 5 years, if they've passed, then the family gets a portion proration back. Or if they're continuing to live, you know, I mean, you've paid it. There is no proration past a certain period of time. So to me, it's a gamble, because you've paid this pretty sizable investment, and if you're not going to see that investment out further, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to pay all that money. Does that make sense? I am not an investment strategist, but you all are supported by some really very smart individuals that can tell you where that break even probably is for you individually. And so I don't take it to that granular level, but I usually tell my clients, if you're not in your 70s, I question the 200,000 down scenario, just because I'm worried that you won't see the true benefits of that if you're not there long term. I know that's a really fuzzy response, but I mean, that's kind of the nuts and bolts.
Thank you. That was great. Please speak up if you have any other questions. There was one that popped up and it just disappeared on me. I apologize if you intended it for it to stay. Can no longer see it.
I feel like I'm sorry, I need to add something to that, what I just said.
You got it. And then Dorothy has a question next.
Yeah, it's supposed to keep the rate level. So like if you come in at $4,000 a month rent, it's supposed to carry that $4,000 a month for the rest of your life. But each one has different criteria with the buy down. And so some might then still charge full care pricing and all the things, but maybe your rent has stayed stable. So I would definitely double click on that to find out what the benefit is to you. Does it include care, you know, with the rent and the stabilization or not?
Thank you. Dorothy, and then we have a question. Couple more questions. So Dorothy, go ahead, and then we'll finish up with the last two that I see in the messaging.
Okay. I took my mute off. So
Thank you.
This is in regards to the 200,000 down payment. We had a client that actually paid that amount, and you need to get, and it was in writing. It was a 15-year declining balance. And she lived 13 of those 15 years. So her family did get the $2,000 or whatever the amount was back, prorated. So the person that asked the question about their parents, that'll all be in writing, and you need to look at that, what that is. It was in Shoreline, in a very nice community, and that's just how they did it. I'm not so sure that it kept her rent down so much. She had very expensive rent. And at the end of her life, she had a live-in caregiver in addition to paying the rent for the facility that she was in.
Yeah, like I said, every single one of the properties that do the buy-in handle it a bit different. So, you know, the basics. And that's usually, there has to be a selling point, and that was the selling point that a couple of them have used. But yeah, I agree. Well, you would definitely get it in writing. But everyone will be different.
Thank you.
I'm
And-
happy to walk through it with her if she wants to call me when they look at
Oh.
the contract.
Thank you for that. Teresa Penman asks, can you use long-term care health insurance in assisted living centers or memory care centers?
Yes, you can. Each one of those policies will have their own stipulations. So the typical long-term care plan will say that you need to have a couple of ADLs, the activities of daily living, needed in support to prompt that policy to start paying. So typically in assisted living, it would just be something like you know, med management and a bath aid, and it's, you know, and you can start drawing off of it. And of course, each of these policies were made at different times, and so they have different lifespans and dollar amounts. Some of them are for life, unlimited. Some of them only pay up to $350,000. So they're very individualized. So if you need help going, you know, talking to Jen Worth or in your carrier, I'm happy to hop on a conference call with you and we can figure out what the ins and outs are of the policy.
So I'm letting everyone know that we will be sending out the video. This was great, just so you know, April. A lot of wonderful information, not the easiest topic to talk about with your loved one who's in this position. Getting older and aging is difficult, stressful, but it sounds as though this can be a positive experience with the planning and some guidance and some education, which we've all got a lot of today. I've got her information up. I think most people are probably writing it down, April. Please feel free to reach out to April to ask any questions that you have. That is her office phone number. I've called it. She calls me back. That is her email and her website. So you can see more information about her services and what April does for seniors, for elderly people that need some guidance, especially for those family members that are put in position to be able to have to do that and want to do that for their loved ones. So we thank all of you for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure, April. I think this is a topic that a lot of people, oh, Lori, thank you. Yes, it's a crash course. This is a good topic. Yes, April, please.
Very quickly, I want to touch on something. My youngest client is 40 years old. I work with traumatic brain injury clients, you know, clients with mental health issues. So, you know, as aging parents that are caring for children who require daily care, I'm also a resource for them as well. So it's very important. That is a need out there, and there are solutions for that as well.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a good way to end this. We wish everyone a wonderful rest of the week. And thank you for joining us for our first Wisdom with Women again of 2023. Our next one will be on estate planning, and we'll be featuring Annie Arbens, who is an estate planning attorney and well known in the community as well. So thank you again, everybody. April, it was a pleasure. So many wonderful resources, and you're just a wealth. Thank you. This was great. Everybody, we're signing off. Thank you again for joining us. Take care.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you,
You're
Katie.
welcome.
Thank you, April.
You're welcome, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye. I'm gonna
Bye.
stop the recording.
Bye, Dorothy.
Bye-bye.